All right, folks, we are now into the vitamins section, and this is the first of your micronutrients. Now, for some people, micronutrients can be a little overwhelming because in society, we're already familiar with macronutrients, talking about calories, how much protein does that have? Hey, man, I don't want any carbs. But vitamins and minerals, though we know they're there, and people often think of them in terms of supplements, they are in our food, especially the more whole foods, the greater the variety that you'll access. Now, they are tiny, and the concern is that for some people, they do get to be a little overwhelming. So I encourage you to utilize, when you go into the micronutrients section, for the vitamins and the minerals, to use the charts that I provided just to capture the highlighted information. And I'll make sure that I've got a little conversation to explain how I like to use it. All right, this section we're going to start as we're going to divide vitamins up into part 1 and part 2, and this is going to be part 1. So what is unique about micronutrients? As I said, macronutrients are about the calories. We weigh them, we count them, we weigh them by grams, and we count them according to the amount of energy they produce for human life. Micronutrients do not produce energy, therefore they do not have any caloric benefit to us. They're actually very light in weight, either in milligrams or micrograms. Oops. The links that I have here, I really encourage you to take a look at these. They're pretty darn fantastic. As a matter of fact, this one link, I'm just going to go ahead and play right now because it really does make a difference.
Hidden hunger occurs when the quality of food that people eat does not meet their nutrient requirements. So the food is deficient in micronutrients such as the vitamins and minerals that they need for their growth and development.
Women and children in families with low income often don't get enough vitamin A, iodine and iron, and sometimes other essential nutrients. This limits their growth, development, health, and working capacity.
Okay, even though that video is from 2014, the point is that the vitamins and the minerals really are the hidden hunger. We're all focused on eating these foods that have calories in them, but the consideration is on the World Health Organization's approach. The global scenario, folks, is deficiency, lack of variety of foods in people's diets, and therefore lacking nutrients. In the United States, we have kind of a hidden hunger that's a little bit different. And that, folks, is our chronic diseases and our dietary choices of eating a lot of processed foods. That when we eat a lot of prepared, processed, fast foods, we're not accessing a lot of nutrients that we need in human health. This also goes for when we have restricted diets where we eliminate food groups. We are then micronutrient deficient. So the hidden hunger is actually global, not just developing nations, but also here in the United States. All right, the top link, by the way, if that video didn't come through very clear, then please definitely visit it. It should be in your slides. Also, the top video is the one from Michael Pollan that I just think is really great, talking about the addition of vitamins into foods like beer, donuts. Yeah. Okay. When we talk about vitamins, there are two classes. First of all, we have fat soluble and water soluble. Your fat soluble vitamins, folks, require the fats as an escort for you to be able to absorb them. And these are going to be vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Beta carotene is a little bit different. It's actually called a precursor, meaning it is the building materials of vitamin A that we access through a variety of vegetables. Now, if you notice on the left side under fat soluble, we have two vitamins, the precursor beta carotene and vitamin E. These are asterisks because they are antioxidants, meaning they help protect and repair cells that have been oxidized. And what does oxidize mean? It means the loss of an electron. So pretty darn cool is that they have the ability, when we have a variety of these in our diet, to heal us, to repair us. The water-soluble vitamins, which are a part of part 2 of the vitamin lecture, are going to be your vitamins B1, 2, 3, 9, 6, 12, 7, 5. But I don't call them by those numbers. Traditionally, we go by their naming convention for the B vitamins of thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, folate, B6, and B12, the two exceptions, biotin, and pantothenic acid. So please, the bolding is the naming convention we want to use for this class. There's also choline, and choline, if you recall, is a part of the phospholipid for the bilayer for your cellular walls. Choline is interesting. It doesn't actually have the same structure as vitamins, but it serves the same purposes. We don't really know how to categorize it, so it got thrown in as a part of the vitamins. It may someday end up in its own group, but for now, it's a water-soluble vitamin. And then lastly, vitamin C. And if you notice, vitamin C has an asterisk next to it also. That is because it too, like beta carotene and vitamin E, is an antioxidant, there for cell repair. All right, when we talk about micronutrient reference values, I have these definitions for you. I'm not worried about these. I will tell you that what we will be focusing on in this class just happens to be the RDA and the DRI, which are the standard reference values that you will see when you're looking at nutrition labels. But it's here for your reference, right? Are we complete on that? Okay, dietary reference intake. I went ahead and amassed everything here for people who are at 19 years of age plus. When people get into their 60s and 70s, these numbers will change, and I did not include those numbers. They are available online, no problem, easy to find. If you have a textbook, they'll be in there also. You can always look them up. But I just wanted to use this as an example, first of all, in reference of seeing the difference between men and women. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's completely different. I also want you to see which, in a quick shot, which are milligrams and which are micrograms. And for you to have the distinction of seeing that when a woman is pregnant or lactating, this also can shift the amount that she needs. For example, folate during pregnancy, and while she's breastfeeding a baby, her numbers need to change significantly. All right, the characteristics. How do we distinguish these two? Well, I identified earlier that fat-soluble vitamins require fat to be absorbed. So they need to have that escort. They will not travel alone. And when they do, they will travel through the lymphatic system to the liver, and then they'll be packaged up into the lipoproteins and delivered with LDL into the blood throughout the body. Some of your fat-soluble vitamins are actually stored in the body. For example, we'll talk about it again, but vitamin A is stored in the liver. Vitamin D is actually stored in your fat deposits. And then vitamin E circulates, and vitamin K. We do not easily excrete these because they can back up in our liver. So we don't want to over-consume vitamins that are fat soluble. Hey folks, I will tell you straight off the bat, we do not typically over-consume any type of nutrient when we eat it by mouth. We chew it and it's whole food. When people experience toxicity from over consuming vitamins and minerals for that matter too, but especially vitamins, it's typically because of taking supplements. All right. Because fat-soluble vitamins can be stored in the body, we don't have to have them every single day, but it's nice to have a small amount on a regular basis just to keep it consistently flowing through the body. Now, the water-soluble vitamins B and C are a little bit different. They do not require an escort, which means that in your intestinal tract, they can be absorbed directly into your bloodstream. What do they require? A water-based environment, okay? Your blood is water-based. So that's all they need, is they just need to get to your intestines and they will be absorbed into your blood. Now, I got to emphasize again, vitamins that are found in our foods are slowly released, typically because of either the amino acids, the proteins have to be denatured, the amino acids cleaved to access the vitamins, or there's a lot of fiber in those plant foods, so that it has to be slowly broken down by intestinal bacteria to release the vitamins. That's slow and steady. It accesses the body. When we consume supplements in pill form, folks, or powdered form, easy in with fluid, but also easy out, because there's nothing to pace to slow down their absorption. So honestly, supplements, expensive pee, just saying, but there is a time and a place for them. Don't get me wrong there, folks. All right. Toxicity is not common. There are two that we can reach toxicity with. We'll talk about this in the water-soluble section. And they are needed in frequent doses. We need these in our diet constantly. Because why? We can absorb them quickly and we can discharge them quickly. All right, your first fat-soluble vitamin, folks. Vitamin A and its precursor, beta-carotene. Vitamin A, beta-carotene, first of all, when you take it through your diet, it will be converted in your liver and activated as vitamin A. So beta-carotene serves as the antioxidant, but once it gets to your liver and it's converted, then it becomes active in other functions as vitamin A, which is our eye health. This is thinking about things like retinol, retinal, and retinoic acid. Your skin and epithelial cells. So if you take into consideration a lot of oftentimes dermatologic medications will include vitamin A, and this includes Accutane, which is 100,000 units of vitamin A. That's very powerful. Vitamin A is necessary in cell differentiation, which means it plays an incredibly important role not only during pregnancy, but also in terms of generation of cells in our lives every single day. New cells. Vitamin A plays a role in immune function. Yeah, folks, everybody's talking about vitamin C for your immune, but we're really missing the mark here. It also includes vitamin A. As a matter of fact, let me make a pitch for a moment and explain to you that there is no single hero when it comes to vitamins and minerals. You want to think of it as it's not Superman, it's not Batman, or it's not the Incredible Hulk, or just Captain America, or just Thor, or just, oh my God, I forgot her name and I like her. Oh well, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. Okay, I'm there. It's a team. It always has to be a team. So vitamin C plays a role in your immune response, but so does vitamin A. So does zinc. Okay. Vitamin A is also important for our bone proteins, which means it's necessary for bone and tooth growth. We identified the beta-carotene aspect as an antioxidant. Vitamin A is necessary in the enzymatic anabolism and catabolism of proteins. It's a coenzyme. Vitamin A is also necessary in reproductive health, the ability to procreate. All right. Now, when we are deficient, we do not have enough vitamin A in our diet, which is what the video short was talking about. This can impact our eyesight. You remember how your mama used to say, eat your carrots for your eyesight? Your mama was onto something. I cannot correct genetics. I cannot correct what is already done. But I will always encourage people to have as much variety in their diet to either prevent the loss of mechanisms in the human body or to maintain the health that is existing. All right, a vitamin A deficiency also can promote night blindness. Again, inability to differentiate objects in the dark, to perceive light in dim light. Xerophthalmia, gene regulation, cell differentiation, immune system, and growth. All of these will be impacted whenever there's a deficiency. The toxicity, on the other hand, goes a little bit in a different direction. When we overconsume vitamin A, this actually can result in our hair falling out. We can start to experience rashes in our skin. Now, interestingly, if you have a loss of vitamin A and fat, that can also result in rashes in the skin, okay? But a toxicity of vitamin A by itself will promote rashes. Hemorrhages, this would be points of bleeding. Bone abnormalities, because now you've got excessive cellular growth and excessive differentiation in the bones. Teeth and body anatomical bones. Fractures. Isn't this interesting? We usually think of fractures in terms of calcium deficiency, but in this case, a toxicity of vitamin A because of the bone abnormalities can produce fractures. Liver failure, because vitamin A is stored in the liver, and if you overconsume vitamin A, it will literally overcome the liver and cause it to fail. You will kill your liver. Birth defects, we call it a teratogenic. It will actually, during pregnancy, it has the ability to, overexpress cells in the fetus, and the fetus will be extremely malformed. And going back to Accutane and dermatology, this is why women are screened and are not allowed to become pregnant while on Accutane. And brain and nerve disorders, it will impact the communication system in your body. Now, that's toxicity, toxicity, folks, is chronic. It takes time. It's not overnight, all right? Now, there are acute incidences of toxicity where, let's say, someone had a whole bunch of vitamin A and they accidentally swallowed the whole bottle worth, all right? That sudden surge of vitamin A in their diet will temporarily impact the body. And that would be, as mentioned, the nausea, vomiting, headaches, vertigo, blurred vision, uncoordinated muscles, increased skull pressure, and then, yes, the acute actually becomes long-term, and that's the birth defects, okay? Now, if you look at your vitamins chart, you'll notice that I do have a column there for what the vitamin buddies are. And I want you to know that what vitamin A loves to work with vitamin D for bone proteins, vitamin K for bone proteins. Vitamin A works with zinc and vitamin C for your immune system. Now, you remember how I said that it's a team effort on vitamins? Okay, they all work somehow with each other, whether directly or once removed. So there's this constant play, but the reality is that would be a whole semester or year-long class. So we're taking kind of the mile high and picking out the things that have obvious relationships with each other that are easily identifiable. Your dietary sources of vitamin A and beta carotene. All right, again, referring to your vitamin chart, I have a column there for you to reference which foods you would be most likely to eat. I encourage you to fill that out because if you ever go to the doctors and find out that you're deficient in a vitamin, then you have at your resource available to you instantly what foods you can increase in your diet to improve your status. All right, the carotenoids, meaning the beta carotenes that we find in our foods, are in things like your sweet potato. Folks, sweet potato is the orange fleshed one, whereas yams are actually officially the yellow, white, and purple ones. So we're talking about the orange flesh. Carrots also. Again, the beta carotene rich in antioxidant power with the orange fleshed ones, sweet potato and carrots. You also have dark leafy greens that are rich, kale, spinach, mustard greens, collard greens, turnip greens, beet greens, Swiss chard, all absolutely amazing and delicious. By the way, folks, if you have not ever ventured into cooking these greens, some of them are okay raw, but they are absolutely fantastic when sauteed with a little bit of olive oil. And then you can season them either with a little bit of Trader Joe's everyday seasoning or a little bit of garlic, or my Japanese pals love to use soy sauce. And then lastly, of course, your winter squashes. And this is going to be the more orange flesh, the more powerful. So it could be your sugar pumpkins, the edible pumpkins. It could be your butternut squash, your kabocha, which is very rich and quite delicious. Your spaghetti squash. It's basically the hard-shelled winter squashes. All right. Your active sources of vitamin A are going to come from liver because all animals store, including fish, they store vitamin A in the liver. Same thing, they also absorb them in a fat environment and it goes straight to the liver where it's stored. So whether you eat the liver of another animal, which I got quite a few of you don't, or fish oil. Yeah, cod liver oil. Hello. All right, there are fortified foods out there. Our milk still to this day is fortified with vitamin A. This was to make up for deficiencies in years past, and we've just never changed the system. It's still there. Now think of it this way. If you consume fat-free milk, are you able to absorb the vitamin A? Think on that. All right, there are some other highly processed products, energy bars, candy bars, even chewing gum and water beverages. That's a moment where I'm going to go, seriously, let's get real, folks. All right, this is my little, my sense of humor, I guess, to know the difference between yams and sweet potatoes. I'm going to move on. You can pause and take a look at it because I think it's quite funny, but I'm going to keep going here. All right, vitamin D, your second fat-soluble vitamin. Vitamin D is vital in the mineral regulation of calcium and phosphorus in your blood. Folks, the human body is designed to constantly pursue homeostasis. This is what we're always trying to do internally, is to balance things out. Too many minerals, then the body gets the messages, we discharge them. Not enough minerals, we hold on to them for dear life. All right. If you recall the proteins, blood is too acidic. We pursue to make it more higher pH. If it's too alkaline, then we reduce the pH and make it more acidic. Everything in the human body is dynamic and shifting constantly nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want you to take into consideration a couple important things. One, this is why when people talk about, oh, I want to buy detox products. No, folks, that's the job of the human body. But part of the detox process is eating a wide variety of foods so that you give your body all the nutrients it needs to pursue homeostasis. Exercise, folks, helps deliver nutrients throughout the body and helps the body eliminate excess nutrients, part of homeostasis. And sleep. Sleep actually gives your body the opportunity to literally access all those messages, reboot itself, and continue to accomplish homeostasis or the pursuit of it. So sleep, exercise, and nutrition are vital in the process of the body, one, detoxing itself, and two, achieving homeostasis. And the vitamin D is the only vitamin we on our own produce. This is it, folks. We get it through our diet. We need to. We also create it. Now, why do we need to get it through our diet? Because interestingly, what I am seeing with people is that when the more stressed people are and the less opportunity they give their body to perform homeostasis to achieve it, the more we burn through our vitamin D stores. So something to take into consideration. We produce vitamin D, we need it to help maintain homeostasis, but we also have the ability to overuse it and lose it. Okay. Vitamin D is also vital in the relationship of regulating cellular growth, homeostasis again, your hormones, emotional health, hormones in terms of communication system in the human body. Your vitamin D is necessary in the absorption of calcium from your gut. This is why we fortify milk with vitamin D. Both A and D, both necessary for bones. Vitamin D is also necessary in the communication process with your kidneys to retain calcium versus discharge it. When we experience a deficiency of vitamin D, which could be through diet or being locked up indoors constantly or such extreme stress and poor diet, for children, they will develop rickets. And rickets, folks, the deficiency of vitamin D in rickets impacts their growing bodies a little differently. In this situation, between the pull of gravity and the weight of their bodies, their bones will get soft, and as they soften, their bones will start to bow. They will bend, all right? They become flexible. Well, folks, that's one thing we do not want bones to be, is flexible. So what do we do for children in that situation? Administer vitamin D and get them out of the house and into the sunlight. Sunlight is one of the most powerful players in human health. But what we've learned because of skin cancer, we don't want to abuse that. All right. Osteomalacia is another deficiency, but we're more so going to see osteomalacia with adults. Osteomalacia, folks, it breaks down into meaning basically bad bones. Osteo, bad bones, bad, sorry. But really what it is softening of the tissues in the support and development of your bones, maintenance of your bones, all right? Osteopenia is when you start to have some porosity to your bones. If you notice the little normal osteopenia, osteoporosis image. So this would be kind of like the initiation of holes, like a sponge. Think of a sponge. It's got some holes, porosity, but it still has its integrity. Whereas osteoporosis, folks, is now you're starting to get tears between those holes, large gaps. And when this happens, bones become extraordinarily fragile and have increased likelihood of breaking or shattering. A deficiency of vitamin D also can result in malformed teeth because of not having enough calcium to develop and strengthen them. And because vitamin D is necessary in the absorption of calcium, calcium is vital in muscle contraction and relaxation. A person can experience muscle spasms. So vitamin D helps regulate calcium on its intake and utilization in the human body, and vitamin D helps in the dance between calcium and phosphorus in your blood. And if you recall, phosphorus is vital in the phospholipid bilayer, the creation of the cellular wall. Now, we'll talk about this little dance between calcium and phosphorus again in a little bit. When we experience toxicity in vitamin D, this is really going to be supplements, not from sunlight, folks, not from over-consuming milk. Too much vitamin D will now interfere with the calcium being in the bones, and it will draw it out into the blood. When it draws excess calcium out into the blood, more than what's necessary to balance with phosphorus, the calcium will calcify, meaning it will harden, it will collect together, and it will land in the soft tissues and harden soft tissues. It's incredibly painful. If the calcium now is hardened in your tissues, it's not in your blood, which now can impact your heartbeat, because your heart is what? A muscle. That then is going to be your muscle contraction, relaxation, and your kidneys, which need it for homeostasis of your blood and distribution. In acute setting, now those are chronic, right? Now in acute, short-term toxicity of vitamin D, it means that short-term we're just going to have a surge of calcium in our blood. And at a moment in time like that, what we want to do is stop the vitamin D immediately. We'll also experience, like vitamin A, the nausea, fatigue. These will come up frequently in toxicities, especially acute. Back pain, irregular heartbeat because of the interference with calcium, and increased urination and thirst. When the body is out of homeostasis, oftentimes we will crave water, we'll feel very thirsty, and therefore we'll have to urinate frequently, because it is a message that your body's saying, I'm in balance. There's too much solute load in your blood of something, and it's trying to find its homeostasis. Our dietary sources of vitamin D, folks, salmon is an absolutely fantastic choice. I know that, please be careful when it comes to vitamins and minerals. Be cautious of the internet, because they provide information out of context, and that's really ridiculous. When we're talking about salmon, if you'll notice, a 3-ounce steak, okay, that's a single serving, size of the palm of your hand, ladies, or anyone who has a slightly smaller hand. For people with larger hands, it would be a 4-ounce serving of a protein-dense animal product. So 3 ounces, single serving, is 794 IUs. You compare that to an egg, which is 40. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. That's 5%. But when you go on the internet and you look up vitamin D food sources, it will list eggs. So please be cautious. All right, your milk, folks, is 120 IUs. So not a lot, but 3 glasses of milk a day, which ensures that you get the calcium you need also, is 360 IUs. You are getting there in terms of how much you need. Cod liver oil, like with vitamin A, because this vitamin D is a fat soluble, it'll be dense in vitamin D. And tuna that is canned will have vitamin D. Isn't that cool? Don't forget, your albacore has the highest omega-3 fatty acid. Sardines, mackerel, notice we're talking about the fish that are highest in fat. And the bonus, which I think is brilliant, chanterelle mushrooms. For whatever reason, maybe because they tend to grow wild in the sunlight, they are oftentimes a beautiful yellow or orange color, but they produce vitamin D. Isn't that crazy? No one else does. It's just humans and chanterelle mushrooms. We make our own vitamin D. Go figure. But please don't go out in the woods and randomly eat mushrooms. Okay? That could be dangerous. All right, for fortified foods, folks, our predominant dietary source is going to be milk, first and foremost, and then, of course, non-dairy milks, which are fortified. So please make sure. Milk is automatically fortified, but your non-dairy milks are not. So whenever you purchase these, please read the nutrition label and make sure that there is a good 10% of your vitamin D in those. And then, of course, like I said, some cereals, less so now than in the past, they might include vitamin D. And then, of course, non-dietary, right? We talked about the foods that go by mouth. We call that actually in hospital speak as per os, by mouth. That's for my nurses out there. For life sources, folks, sunlight. So here's the thing. Get out in the sunshine every day for 10 minutes. Southern California, we are so fortunate because we have access to great sunlight considering our longitude and latitude. Well, I guess more so latitude, huh? All right, back of the neck, arms, legs. Your abdomen does not produce a lot of vitamin D, so I'm not worried about that one. You want to go for the farmer's tan, folks. All right. Yes, vitamin D production is high at midday because you have more UV rays, but you also increase the likelihood of skin cancer. So, yes, go out somewhere between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. On average, 10 minutes. That means just walking around outside and boom, you've done your job for your health. Now, skin color does make a difference, folks. All right. The deeper color skin means that it actually takes you longer to produce vitamin D, whereas the paler colored skin produces vitamin D quicker. This has to do with genetics, folks, and geographic location of our heritage. A person who is from severe northern climates like Scandinavia, there was very minimal sunlight, so this basically meant that people were very effective at absorbing vitamin D. Absorbing sunlight to produce vitamin D under their skin. Hence the pale hair, pale eyes, all responds to the low sunlight. Whereas you get towards the equator, people's skin pigmentation darkens because now their body is slower at producing vitamin D so that they don't reach toxicity. Isn't that cool? It's just absolutely beautiful. Now, as we've migrated all over the world, this has produced some challenges for people. People in far northern areas with deeper pigmentation, it will take them much longer and be more challenging to produce vitamin D because the sun is weaker. Whereas people historically from northern areas who go to the equator, they'll become fried bacon in a heartbeat. They have to be very careful. Or as I like to say, my mother became a lobster. All right, what other factors can affect the synthesis of vitamin D in our body? Well, I want you to take a few things into consideration. All right, number one, clothing. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, clothing, folks. UV rays can penetrate cotton, but they do not penetrate as effectively artificial fibers. They actually reflect off of them. And we've been wearing a lot more nylons and polyesters, which means that we're not absorbing as much vitamin D through our clothing. What else? Think. Really want you guys to kind of think about this. What else can affect our vitamin D synthesis? Why don't you pause it and take a moment and sketch out what you think it might be? This is a great opportunity for you to critically think and explore what the possibilities are, because you got to wrap your head around this stuff, folks, so that when you read crazy things on the internet, you have the ability to look at it and be like, I don't think so. All right, another possibility, sunblock. We're so concerned about skin cancer, reasonably so, but when we're wearing it constantly, now we're blocking our body's ability to produce vitamin D. And if we're not accessing vitamin D in our diet, then how in the heck are we getting it? if we're indoors all the time and we're very limited exposure to sunlight when we're outdoors, then that completely defeats the possibility. Let's see, what about time of day? What about if you work the night shift and sleep during the day? Or you play video games all day? Or you're in school all day in a building and never go outside? That will affect your body's ability to synthesize vitamin D. All right. Latitude, where you are around the world. Northern climates, you're producing less. Equatorial regions, producing more. What about the season, the time of year? There's less production in our winters and more production in our summers of vitamin D. The time of day. All right. Oh, we kind of talked on that a little bit. All right. The amount of skin exposed. Oh my gosh, what if you were one of those people who went around in a turtleneck, long sleeves, long pants, and had a midriff? It wouldn't do you a lot of good. All right, age. As we age in our senior years, our body is actually not as quick to produce vitamin D. Kidney disease, liver disease. Vitamin D, folks, initiates when you're exposed to sunlight. The sterols in your blood will go through a conversion from the dehydrocholesterol under your skin when exposed to sunlight to become a pre-vitamin D3. It will transfer through your body. It will go to the liver and then to the kidneys in a conversion rate to become an active vitamin D for your body to use. But if you have liver disease, then your liver's not going to be effective at activating converting vitamin D. If you have kidney infection or kidney disease, you're on dialysis, you are also not able to convert and activate vitamin D. So these could be powerful influencers in your health and well-being. Now, I don't think we talked about the buddies, nutrient buddies of vitamin D. Folks, your nutrient buddies, if you gathered from reading in between the lines, would be, of course, vitamins A and K for bone health, calcium for bone density, phosphorus. But vitamin D has actually other buddies, which includes magnesium. Let's see, let me make sure. We've got calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, vitamins A and K. Yeah, those are the ones we can focus on. Those are some pretty fantastic examples. All right, vitamin E is an antioxidant. That is hands down probably the most powerful role that it plays. Its job is, as I said before, to go around and to repair cells that have been damaged, oxidized by things called reactive oxygen species. Those reactive oxygen species, folks, could be things like pollution, sunlight, smoking. The body can also experience damage to cells when we over-exercise. Isn't that wild? Yeah. Too much of a good thing, folks, is not a good thing. All right. 2 things I want you to walk away from this class. Number 1, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And number 2, variety is the spice of life. All right, when we experience a deficiency of vitamin E, this will actually impact our muscle coordination and reflexes. Interesting, because its responsibility is to constantly repair. It will impact our vision and our speech, and we will start to experience red blood cell breakage, the cell membranes breaking down. Is there toxicity? Yes, with drug medication interactions. So again, I have to say, if you're ever taking a supplement, you should always communicate with your doctor. When we overconsume vitamin E, it also has the ability to interfere with our blood thinning medications and our vitamin K balance in our body. It was interesting. They did a study some years ago on vitamin E and men's heart health, thinking, hey, when a person has a heart attack, that's death of cells. But if we give them a whole bunch of vitamin E supplements, then maybe the vitamin E can go in and save those cells so that they don't die. Yeah, they had to stop the study right away. They actually had a surge in heart attacks. Supplements, folks, like I said, the toxicity could be fast and furious. All right, what are our dietary choices? Number one, if you notice, there's something in common. Sunflower seeds, almonds, hazelnuts or filberts, pine nuts, peanuts, Brazil nuts, wheat germ oil, hazelnut oil, and avocado. What do all of those have in common? Fat. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble vitamin, and this is the beauty of nature, is that life has ensured that we can easily access these to heal and repair our body through our foods. That the fats are there so that we can automatically absorb them, take them into our body. Think about back to like vitamin D and chanterelle mushrooms. There's no fat there, folks. If you eat chanterelle mushrooms plain, you're not going to be able to access the vitamin D. You'd have to eat them with something with fat. If you recall the fish, because it's coming from a living creature that has fat in it, you are also accessing the vitamin D. So this is the beauty of organization of life, is that these foods, life has ensured we have the ability to heal and repair ourselves. Is that fantastic? But again, I'm going to say, variety is the spice of life. Or maybe it's just life, right? There are some fortified foods out there, folks, and typically vitamin E is used actually as an antioxidant in different products to help prevent them from becoming rancid. You might see it in oils or in processed foods, and it would be referred to as tocopherol. So that's not a chemical, it just means it's vitamin E. Now, question is, why don't they just call it vitamin E? I don't know. I'm sure it's a complicated answer, and that's a food science question that I do not have the answer to. Maybe I will someday. It depends on if that depository of brain cells choose to expand. All right, what are your nutrient buddies for vitamin E, folks? There are two. The first one is vitamin C, because vitamin C has the ability to donate electrons to vitamin E so it can regenerate. If you notice on the prior slide, it said regenerative. That means vitamin E can be cycled and used over and over and over again. And the role of vitamin C is it donates the electrons so that your body can keep reusing it. The other one is selenium. Selenium is actually a mineral. Isn't that a trip? You have a mineral that's donating an electron to vitamin E so that it can regenerate. Life is beautiful. All right, our last fat-soluble vitamin is vitamin K. And as we said, along with its nutrient buddies A and D, necessary for bone proteins. Vitamin K is vital in the blood clotting process. It is what activates the cascade so that we have the ability to create clots and then eventually scabs. Folks, if we do not have vitamin K, our blood is too thin and we will bleed out. We will not have the ability to create that little plug whenever we have a cut. For some people who have blood clots due to too much saturated fat or blood cholesterol, their doctors will put them on blood thinning medications like Coumadin and warfarin. And in a situation like that, doctors oftentimes will reduce the amount of vitamin K in a person's diet. Old school was they would tell them, do not eat any foods rich in vitamin K. But actually that turned out to be a huge mistake because vitamin K also has to do with the flexibility, the elasticity of blood vessels. And people who cut vitamin K out of their diet ended up dying from embolisms. That's where your blood vessel explodes and bleeds out. So What they've learned today is that when a person has a diet rich in vitamin K based foods and they are on a medication like Coumadin or warfarin, then they just need to titrate it appropriate to how much they eat in their diet and be consistent in their diet. So if they eat a food rich in vitamin K like kale every day, they need to be consistent. Not eat a giant bouquet one day and nothing the next. All right. When we experience a deficiency, therefore, we experience hemorrhages, bleeding, and we have, because of the bone value, abnormal bone formation when we don't have enough to fully build our bones. For the toxicity, too much vitamin K can actually lead to jaundice, and jaundice will express itself in the human body as yellowing of skin, yellowing of the white membranes of the eyes. Jaundice, folks, is when our body breaks down its red blood cells, which is about on average every 4 months, or they get broken, let's say due to a bruising. The pigments from the blood, from the cells, are released into the blood, and they're not eliminated by bilirubin to our bile and excreted. And when they don't get eliminated, they actually start to manifest in our body, and hence that's why they start to express through our skin and the membranes of our eyes, producing that yellow color. What helps prevent that? Sunlight. Not only vitamin K, but also sunlight. Okay, what are our vitamin K sources? Well, our dietary sources are those dark leafy greens, absolutely rich and brilliant in vitamin K. Also, peas are a wonderful source. Your cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. Liver, because why? We store vitamin K in the liver just like vitamin A and some E. So eating animal liver will result in very high amounts of vitamin K. We have to be cautious of that. Milk has vitamin K in it. Isn't that cool? We don't add that. That's there, folks. And that is one of the beautiful things about mammal milk, is it ensures the development of the bones of its new species. And eggs. Eggs have vitamin K. Isn't that weird? In comparison to all these greens, vitamin K does have it. Now again, nutrient buddies, vitamins A and D for bone proteins. All right. Vitamin K also works with iron for blood and copper and a little bit of vitamin C. All right. And there are some foods still out there on the market that are fortified with vitamin K, just a few. All right, folks, that is the end. That is the end of the fat-soluble section. The next one, part 2, will be your water-soluble vitamins.